Hi everyone,
G'day.
and welcome to Parkside Live. Thank you for joining us. Wherever you're joining us from, it's great to have you join our conversation. And we're going to be talking about who we become in a world of violence and corruption. It's quite a big topic, but we pray that as we chat, maybe you might come to a place where you can think about who you are in this world.
Yeah. Growing up, I voluntarily engaged in wrestling. Like around our house, wrestling was one of the favourite ways we passed our time. And I still remember the day that I was able to beat my dad in my first wrestle. Like that was a pretty thing. And honestly, there probably wasn't too much technique involved. It was just a lot of grunting and groaning. And then I went on to play rugby league and rugby union, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I just mention all those things because don't worry, it's not about sport if you're not a sporty person. But for me, using energy to try and defeat someone has been a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And we used to joke about it actually that if you behaved the way we behaved on the four sides of a rugby field, you'd get arrested on the street for assault.
Yeah.
There was this thing where there was an agreement. Mm-hmm. You're going to do your best to try and dominate me, and I would do my best to try and dominate you.
Yeah.
And in the best case, actually,
Hi.
those things work out, and then you stand around afterwards and have a laugh about some of the silly things you do. So the use of force to achieve a goal has been a big part of my world. But I feel like at the moment we are living in times where there's no agreement, where force is being used to achieve goals, where one party says, this is what I want, and I'm going to get it, and it doesn't matter how. And then the other person says, no, I don't want that. And yet force is used to dominate. And that's really how we define violence, is the use of force to achieve an end. And there's all sorts of ways I see we are experiencing that in this world. I mean, what do you see of the violence in the world?
I see people who are forced into slavery, people who have their homes bombed or taken away from them. There is all of that kind of violence. I mean, I've experienced being assaulted myself, someone thinking I'm just going to do whatever I want and, attacked me, knocked me down. Someone saved me in that instance. But someone going, I'm going to do this, and me going, no, you're not, and them going, doesn't matter what you say, because they were bigger and stronger than I.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So.
And you may be watching this from a place where you have an expectation of being able to move throughout your day without encountering physical violence. That doesn't mean you don't encounter force.
No.
People can use the terms of employment as force. Do this thing that you might not ordinarily want to do, or I'll fire you. That's the application of force. And I think there's a difference there between saying, if you can't complete the job as we said, then this ends a relationship.
Yes.
But then you find yourself sometimes in an environment where say, it's just how motivation happens. Do this or you'll be fired. Like that's the use of force. We see sometimes people find themselves in controlling relationships. You do what I say, or I'm not going to give you any money this week. You do what I say, or I'm going to be physically violent. There are other expressions of violence in this world that we are seeing right now on the international scale. We are seeing nations say, we want this and we are going to use force. We are going to invade you, try and take that from you. We are going to launch bombs over borders to achieve our goals. We don't care what you say. We don't care what the world says. There are also people, though, watching this, whom the threat of violence is real. Physical violence. And people live in fear of actually being assaulted. And so we live in this world which seems to be at every level violent, even in social groups. If you don't think this way, get out.
Yeah.
We want you to agree with us, to recite our same creeds, otherwise you're gone. And it's a violent world. And then when you're in a violent world, we're confronted with the question of, oh, who do I become?
Yeah.
Because as someone who's experienced physical violence, I don't know, were you tempted to then respond with violence?
I always actually thought if I was ever in that situation that I could defend myself and I would be able to get out. In this situation, I couldn't.
Yeah.
And after that, I mean, surprisingly, I wasn't then tempted to be violent, but I wish that someone else would have been on my behalf. So I guess it was still wanting some kind of violence to happen in retaliation, but yeah.
And I would describe you as a gentle person, not a violent person, and yet when you're confronted with violence, it's very difficult to know what to do, to how to deal with it.
Yeah, well, because I mean, I think if anything violent would happen, say, to one of our girls, like right now, even if I don't want to be a violent person, I'm like, I wouldn't put it past me to do something violent back.
Yeah. And then so you can find yourself making decisions that you would not normally make.
Yeah.
Acting in a way that you would not normally act when you are confronted with this threat of force. And what we want to explore is, in a world like that, because I think individually, communally, and even as we then go up to groups of people and nations, there is certainly violence going on. And as we so often do, we're going to draw some inspiration from the scriptures tonight. We're going to read just from the book of Genesis, and we're going to just look at a short description in Genesis chapter 6. And what it says here, Genesis chapter 6 and verse 11. Now, God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. And so God said to Noah, I've decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I'll wipe them out along with all the earth. And we're going to unpack some other things there. But as we read through that, what stands out to you just reading that through on the first time?
Well, just the all and everything and everyone was corrupt.
Yeah.
All violent, like life was not as intended.
Yeah. And I think we can relate to that. It can feel like everyone is corrupt and violent. And then when we talk about this, it talks about the corruption. And like, how would you define corrupt?
Well, I think, like I just said at the end, and then as I was thinking, I'm like, I think that's how I would say corrupt, like not as intended, misshapen from how it was originally created.
Yeah. A bit of a word buff, you might be too, but violence actually comes from the Latin word vis, which means that's violence.
Yeah.
Comes from the Latin word vis, which means force, but no big surprises there. Corrupt actually comes from the Latin word corruptus. Not much of a jump there, but it means to break.
Okay.
And so when we, like you said, not as it once was, to alter, to change. And so there's an action, but there's an implication that something was originally not like this.
Yes.
And we see this in the description that we have here of this world. It wasn't like this. It was not meant to be like this.
Yep.
And if you're living now with this feeling, it is not supposed to be like this, I think that means that you're actually quite a sane human being.
Yep.
I think that means that somewhere within you, you are recognizing that something has been broken, that we have missed the mark somehow. And I think it's good to recognize that. This is not how it's supposed to be. I don't think we're supposed to finish there, but when we see something that is broken, fix it. When we see something that is broken, speak up, even if we cannot see the next step. But we're called to speak up. And there's been courageous people who've done that throughout history. I think of, for example, Rosa Parks, a figure in America, and she was just riding on a bus, and there was a section in this bus that was reserved for people who had white skin, a section that was reserved for people who had black skin, and a section in the middle where if you had black skin you could sit there but you had to move.
Yep.
And she just saw the injustice. She sat there, and when a white person with white skin got on, she said, I am not moving.
Yeah.
This is not right. She didn't see the whole picture. She didn't know, but she had the courage to say, this is corrupt. It is broken. It is not right. And when we are living in a world surrounded, I think speaking up is the first thing. And it's the first step in building or rebuilding a different way. And I think sometimes when we're faced with this violence and corruption, our temptation can be to just tear down.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's part of the rebuilding process. But if all we can see is the tearing down, if we don't commit ourselves to building something greater, then I think we're going to just result in emptiness and destruction as opposed to a new way of living. And I think it's so powerful when we see injustice to be able to say, this is broken, but this is what I think is right. This is what good looks like. And, if we look at this story here, this becomes a story of someone who built something that in the middle of this corruption and violence. So the story goes that this individual that God spoke to, a person by the name of Noah, built for 100 years.
Which is just incomprehensible, isn't it? Like he just kept building without seeing kind of like in one sense, why he was building it or the reason for this particular thing that he was building.
The story goes that he was told to build a boat. He didn't build a boat near the sea. He built it in the middle of a plain. And then people hadn't seen rain. Can you imagine how it feels to build a boat in a plain, no water anywhere and no rain?
And 100 years.
Crazy. Yeah, this is not just like, I just ducked down to a local hardware store and picked up a few things and knocked it together over the weekend. But this is he gave his life to building something that, number one, he didn't fully understand. But number two, those who gathered around, they weren't going, yeah, good job.
They were going, what an idiot. What are you doing?
But they were people who were living in this broken world, this violent world, and saying, you're wasting your time. And yet this person was building for something unseen, a different way of life. They were shaping a future when they were surrounded by this corruption and violence. And it's important to speak up against corruption, the broken things in this world. It takes courage. It takes courage to stand up when someone is trying to force you. If you look at the example of Rosa Parks and the way that she stood up, it takes courage. But then the question is, what are we building towards? What do you see that perhaps those people around you do not see? Because when we are confronted with violence, it is a fight. A friend of mine flicked me a video during this week, and it was a video just describing how some people are determined to fight for a small nation state on the edge of the Mediterranean, even when they are attacking nations just around them. And people are determined, they are one-eyed. And I think as we move through our lives, we can find people who are just, for some reason, committed to injustice. They are committed to a broken system because the system that is broken works for them. But then the question is, what does it mean to be committed to building a different future, as committed as the systems are entrenched, as committed to building a different future as the people who are benefiting from the broken systems of this world are committed to holding on to that power? What does that mean? Because that's what we see And here's just a little bizarre thing. This is hard work. It takes focus and energy and effort. But the character in this story means Noah. Now, I don't speak Hebrew. Do you speak Hebrew? No, you speak a few different languages. But Noah means, in Hebrew, to rest. That is bewildering. Can you imagine being in an environment where things are broken, they're not working as they should, where people feel free to use force to achieve whatever they want, where you are building something that you don't fully understand and you're giving your life to it. You're recruiting your family to this work. I think that's anything but restful.
Yeah.
Anything but.
Yeah.
And yet, how can this person be recognized as someone at rest? How can we live at rest here? And I think the invitation of faith is first of all to see differently. And then to live differently. And then to work differently. But then we know that the outcome is not always resting with us. You know, if we go back to this story of Rosa Parks, when she sat on that bus, she was willing to be arrested for that. But a community gathered around her and they organised a citywide boycott of the bus system. And it became not just one person. Her courageous action sparked a movement, and for 480 odd days, people refused to catch the buses of the city because they said, this is broken. This is a system that does not work. And in the end, the city said, please, we will change the system, just get back on the buses. She spoke up, she acted courageously, but recognised that the outcome was bigger than her. And I think the power of our lives when we are connected with the oppressed God, a God who stepped into the world, who himself was subject to violence, who himself was the victim of corruption and a broken system. We can say, this is the way. And I'm giving myself to this way, and this might be bigger than my life. This might be bigger than my resources. This might be bigger than my networks. And yet, who we become in the face of violence and corruption is determined by what we see. And we see here this man called Rest could see a different way, could see a different power, not the energy of force, but actually the energy of life, the energy of justice. Not the energy of domination, but the energy of strength under control, of meekness. And that reminds me of a different statement when Jesus said, the meek will inherit the earth. Jesus said, you are blessed when you hunger and thirst, not for corruption, but when you hunger and thirst for justice, because then you will be satisfied. And I wonder, can you see that world where it's not about violence, but actually about strength under control, under the control of love. It's not about injustice and oppression, but actually about justice. In that world, and that's what we want to see. And we want to invite you right now, in the middle of the violence, in the middle of the corruption that you may see, in the middle of the brokenness, to take a stand right now in this moment and say, I want to live for that kingdom. I want to live for something that I don't necessarily even fully see, but I know that I want more justice in this world. I know that I don't want violence. I want more peace. And if we step into that, it may be the work of a lifetime and even beyond, and yet the one who gives life to the universe wants to give life to this new way of living. the God who himself was oppressed and the victim of violence on this earth, wants to free others. If you want to step in that one, we want to invite you right now to make a declaration and say, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. I want to build this kingdom of justice. I want to build a kingdom where force is not the ultimate power, but love is the ultimate power. And if you are willing to take that stand right now, we invite you to pray with us. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if you prayed that prayer, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop us a DM on our socials. We'd love to support you in any way on the next step of your journey. We recognise for some of you, watching this is a way that you engage with God. And for others, if you're moving through Southwest Sydney, I would invite you to join us at this very table where we gather with friends on a Sunday morning to have similar discussions like this one.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. God bless.
Bye.